In this video, we're going to learn about kinesthesis. So what is this? Well, it's a technique used in both animation as well as film where a series of still images becomes animated through variations in camera movement, the order and the duration of images, and the transition from one image to the next. I can almost guarantee that you've seen this effect in films or animations. And it does go by other names. You can see some of them here on the right. One of the most common is the Ken Burns effect. And in fact, if you've ever worked in the video editing software iMovie, there's actually a button labeled Ken Burns. So let's break down camera movement a little bit. What we're talking about here is a change in the frame or the perspective of a piece of time-based media. Again, that could be a film, that could be an animation. And here, we're talking about frame in the context of the boundaries of the viewing area, not necessarily a single frame of animation. A camera movement can help shift the audience's point of view without cutting or jumping to a different scene or a different shot. And often camera movement is used to make a sequence more immersive or engaging or impactful. When we're talking about live action video or stop motion animation, actual physical cameras are used and moved around in real space. In 2D digital animation, we're talking about a simulated camera where we'll make changes to software settings that basically mimic what a physical camera would do. There's lots of different camera motions, but these are the basics that we would see in kinesthesis. Here we can see a boom, and this is a vertical movement where the camera moves up or down. And we can simulate this in animation software by adjusting the vertical position of a layer or a visual element. We could also look at a crab, which is a similar move, and here we're getting a horizontal movement where the camera moves side to side. And similar to a boom, we can simulate this in animation software by adjusting the horizontal position of a layer or a visual element. Next up, we can talk about a roll, and this is where the camera spins around the axis perpendicular to the scene. And we can simulate this in animation software by adjusting the rotation property of a layer or a visual element. Next up, we have a zoom, and this is a lens movement that shifts the field of view and the focal length without shifting the perspective. We can simulate this in animation software by adjusting the scale and also sometimes the position of a layer or a visual element. So there's lots of different camera motions, but these are the basics that we would see in kinesthesis. Let's move on and talk about sequence. So quite simply, sequence is the order of images or scenes that we see. So sequences can be ordered in all sorts of different ways. They might be linear or chronological, reverse chronological, or random, just to name a few. Here we can see a reverse chronological sequence of a chicken becoming a chick, then becoming a newborn chick, and then becoming an egg. Sequence often goes right along with duration, and that's just the amount of time an image is seen on screen. Shorter durations, like the ones we see here, allow for a little bit more motion-like changes, where we're not really getting enough time to contemplate each individual image. It's more about the changes that are happening over the succession of multiple images. Longer durations, on the other hand, give a feeling of stillness and might give the viewer more of a chance to contemplate a singular image. Now, we can't talk about sequence or duration without also talking about transitions. So transitions are basically how we progress visually from one image or scene to the next. A few common transitions include a jump cut, where we abruptly shift from one image to the next, and that's what we saw in the last two examples. We could also think about a fade or a dissolve, and that's what we're seeing here, where for a brief moment, as we transition from one image to the next, we'll see both at the same time with varying levels of opacity. And that could help give more of a feeling of continuity from one image to the next. Another common transition that you'll see is a wipe, where an image slides off to one side or the other. All right, so that's just a little overview of how kinesthesis works.